It's really a very difficult time, not only for India, but I would say for the whole humanity. Because the problem which the world is facing today is totally unprecedented. And I think in a crisis like this, in a situation like this, what is required is the support and cooperation of everyone. These are the times when the entire humanity will have to contribute. Today's are the time when you do not have to ask as to what the country has done for me. Today is the time when you have to ask, what am I doing for my country? Rightly or wrongly, for good or bad, this kind of a situation happens in the life only once in somebody's life. So the whole country, everybody, the industry, the bureaucracy, the judiciary, the common man, the businessman, they really have to start thinking in terms of what do I need to do so as to ensure that this country is out of the menace of COVID-19. Today is the time when every one of us have to start stopping in terms of worrying about ourselves. We have to start thinking about worrying for everybody. And this crisis, remember, will get resolved or solved only when every one of us start thinking in terms of everyone and not in terms of ourselves only. Because everybody is in trouble. Everybody is in trouble. Everybody is in difficulty. Everybody is in problem. और ऐसी सिचुएशन में सबसे बड़ी चीज़ ये है, एक ये एटीट्यूड रख के चलना कि हम इस समस्या को जीत पाएंगे, हम इस समस्या से ऊपर उठ पाएंगे, हम वो कर पाएंगे जो हमको करना है एक्चुअली. एंड ऑल्सो रिमेंबर, टुडे योर सेफ्टी is not based only on your following the rules of lockdown. Your safety and my safety is also linked with everyone following the rules of lockdown. Anybody who breaks the rules of lockdown, remember, he becomes a risk for rest of the people. And therefore, as the responsible citizen of this country, we need to communicate to everyone. We need to ensure that everyone follows the rules of the lockdown. And please remember, lockdown is not the solution. Lockdown is only a preventive measure. And the advantage of this preventive measure is, if everybody follows the rules of lockdown, there is so much less trouble likely to happen. There is so much less number of people likely to get infected with coronavirus. That means so much more time the government and the authorities get to manage this crisis. If people start breaking the lockdown rules and more and more people start getting infected with the coronavirus, you can imagine what can happen. All the hospitals will run short of space. All the hospital, all the places all over the country will run short of doctors, nurses. And that is why we have to take it as our personal responsibility. And we have to ensure that we talk to everybody, convey to them, please follow the rules of lockdown, come what may. Unless and until the government advises you otherwise, do not break the rule of lockdown. That, friends, I think is very, 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 very important. And I would like to once again repeat, somebody, I think it was Winston Churchill, who once upon a time said that don't ask as to what the country has done for you. Today you must ask as to what you are doing for the country. This is the time. This is the time where every citizen has to think in terms of as to what am I doing for the country today. All these years we have been getting return from the country. Today is the time when we have to give return to the company. Today is the time when the entire country, every one of us, have to think ourselves as one single family. Today we cannot afford to think I, me, myself. Today we have to think everybody, every Indian is part of my family. Today we have to work so as to ensure that none of our fellow citizen is in any kind of difficulty, any kind of challenge. Remember, problems will come and problems will go. What will remain is the feeling of the solidarity, feeling of the unity that everybody would have shown in this hour of crisis. It's not that the first time this world or our country is facing a situation like this. It must have happened so many times in the past. But every time you stay united, you stay together, you fight it together, you come out of it, you become winner, and after becoming winner, you have a very positive feeling कि जब देश में इतनी बड़ी मुसीबत आई थी तो उसमें कंट्रीब्यूट करने वालों में मेरा भी सबसे आगे नाम था. And that will give you the sense of satisfaction. And remember, that will not only give you a sense of satisfaction, that will also inspire and give good sanskars to your children. After a few years, you would be very proudly be able to say कि देश में समस्या आई और मैंने मेरा योगदान दिया और मेरे योगदान और मेरे तरह से सब लोगों के योगदान से हिंदुस्तान कोरोना से बाहर आया और आज हिंदुस्तान वापस मजबूती के साथ बाहर बढ़ रहा है. So friends, this is the feeling, this is the sentiment, this is the emotion that all of us have to carry in our minds and do our might, whichever way, whatever we can do, we have to ensure that we all stay united, we all stay together, we all speak the same language, we follow and we suffer or we enjoy together. That is the sentiment, that is the feeling that we should have. So with this input about the national crisis that the country is passing through, let's come back to our discussion. And our discussion today is on another accounting standard, and the index that we are going to cover today is index 2, which is on inventories. Incidentally, friends, this index 2, which is on inventories, it looks to be very simple, when you think in terms of it. But then you realize it is not really that simple. It is quite complex. And once again, when you start studying, when you start analyzing the various aspects of index 2, and that's where you realize as to why the index 2 is so important. One reason as to why index 2 is so crucial, so critical, is because for most of the manufacturing companies that we have in this country, 40 to 60% cost of these companies comprises of inventory. And you can imagine, if 40 to 60% cost is on account of inventory, it really becomes so critical and so crucial. And you can also understand why the accounting of inventory becomes crucial, because if you make a mistake in the accounting of the inventory, what will happen? Remember, when you make mistake in accounting of the inventory, when you make one mistake, remember, you don't make one mistake, by default you make two mistakes. तो अगर आप इन्वेंट्री की अकाउंटिंग में एक गलती कर रहे हो आपकी कंपनी में, आपकी एंटिटी में, तो याद रखिए, यू आर नॉट मेकिंग वन मिस्टेक, यू आर मेकिंग two mistakes. So what are the two mistakes? The first mistake is, because the mistake that you have because this mistake that you have made, what has happened? Because of that mistake, one product is getting undercosted. And please remember, if one product is getting undercosted, by default there is another product which is getting overcosted. And you can understand, if you do under costing of a product, there is a full possibility you will do under pricing of that product. And remember, if you do under pricing of that product, your product will sell like a hot cake. There is no doubt about it. But every time you sell one unit of it, you will make a loss. And why you will make a loss? Because you did the undercosting, and because of the undercosting, you did the underpricing, and because of the underpricing, forget the profit, you're not able to recover your cost also. And you are under the impression that you are recovering your cost. If you, second thing, if you do, by the second mistake that you do, you over cost a product. So if you over cost a product, by default, you overprice it. And remember, when you overprice it, doesn't really matter as to how good your product is. If you overprice it, nobody is going to buy it. And if nobody is going to buy it, your business, your company, your entity is going to be in trouble. And that is the reason why there is a need for having a proper accounting standard for the inventories, and that is why we have Ind AS 2. There are a lot of things that I'm going to discuss with you, friends, as always, when it comes to the Ind AS 2, and our approach is going to be same as we have had the approach in the past for all our sessions. Incidentally, today we are on the 12th day, and in this 12th day, all that you can see on the screen is what we have covered. We have covered 7 indices already. This is the 8th index that we are covering today, which is on the inventories. Our approach will remain the same. So what I have done for facilitating the understanding of yours as regards the index, I have broken the entire index 2 on the inventories in various components, about 30 of them. And I'm going to explain to you, to begin with, each of these 30 components of the index, so that you're very clear about everything one by one. And then, having understood these 30 aspects of Index 2, then we will come back and look at the same thing once again in more depth, so that your understanding about Index 2 really becomes very deep. देखिए, मेरा मकसद बहुत सिंपल है. मेरा मकसद ये है कि आप जो ये सेशन इंडेक्स 2 के ऊपर अटेंड कर रहे हैं, आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग इंडेक्स 2 की इतनी स्ट्रांग हो जाए कि आपको इंडेक्स 2 द्वारा पढ़ने की जरूरत ना पड़े. दैट इज़ व्हाट इज़ माय एम एंड ऑब्जेक्टिव. दैट इज़ व्हाट माय एंडीवर इज. एंड आई एम श्योर विद योर इन्वॉल्वमेंट एंड एंगेजमेंट it would be possible for me and for you also to achieve this objective. So let us look at those 30 aspects of Index 2. So we look at first of all purpose and relevance of Index 2, which I have explained to you already as to why Index 2 is critical, why Index 2 is important, why Index 2 is significant for all of us to understand. 40 से लेके 60% तक की जो कॉस्ट होती है किसी कंपनी की, प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट होती है किसी कंपनी की, 40 to 60% of that cost is by way of inventory, and therefore accounting of the inventory becomes crucial. And please remember, as always, you also need to link the importance of Index 2 with the purpose that is incorporated in framework. And what is the purpose incorporated in the framework? The purpose which is incorporated in the framework is that you need to make your financial statements in a way so that the user of these financial statements is able to understand, is able to evaluate performance of your entity. What performance? The financial performance, the financial position, and the cash flow position. As a result of that, the user should be able to arrive at a well-informed economic decision. So from that perspective, it is necessary to have a good understanding of index. Not only to have a good understanding of index, but also ensure that the understanding that you have of index, you are able to aptly incorporate and account for when you are writing the financial statements of your entity. Then we look at the objective, specific objective of Index 2 on inventories. Then we look at what is the scope of Index 2. And just to tell you at this point in time, Index 2 would cover everything else except 2. Number one, it will not cover the biological inventories, which is as per Ind AS 41 on agriculture. And number two, it will not cover financial instruments, which is as per Ind AS 32 and Ind AS 109, which are on the financial instruments. So the financial instruments as defined in Ind AS 32 and Ind AS 109, and biological assets as covered under Ind AS 41. Except these two items of inventories, everything else is covered under Ind AS 2 on inventories. Then we will understand what is the definition of inventories. What definition of inventories technically, that is what we will understand. And then of course we need to also understand what is net realizable value and what is fair value. So to make you to have to get you to help you get a good handle on it, I can explain to you as to what is net realizable value. So what is net realizable value, or NRV, and what is its significance? So remember, in a business, what can happen? In a business, it is possible that the inventory which you are carrying in your books, the realizable value of this inventory has gone down as much as it is lower than the cost. अब जरा समझ के लीजिए, एनआरवी का मतलब क्या है? एनआरवी का मतलब है जो इन्वेंट्री आप कैरी कर रहे हो, अगर आप इसको बेचने जाओ आज तो आपको कितना पैसा मिलेगा, ठीक है? तो जो इन्वेंट्री जो आप आज कैरी कर रहे हो, इफ यू गो एंड सेल इट, हाउ मच मनी विल यू गेट इट? एंड रिमेंबर, फ्रॉम दिस अमाउंट that you will get when you decide to dispose of the inventory which you have, from this amount you deduct the expenses that you will incur, estimated expenses that you will incur in selling your assets. The difference that you get in your hand is your net realizable value, NRV. And why NRV is important? Because if NRV is lower than your purchase cost, कहने का मतलब है कि जो इन्वेंट्री आप कैरी कर रहे हो उसकी कीमत, उसकी परचेस कॉस्ट है 100 रुपीज़ और उसकी NRV है 80 रुपीज़. विल यू बी डूइंग राइट अकाउंटिंग इफ यू शो दिस इन्वेंट्री इन योर बुक्स एट 100 रुपीज़? एंड द आंसर इज नो. And why the answer is no? Because as on the date of the balance sheet, the worth of the inventory that you were carrying de facto was 80 rupees and not 100 rupees. 100 rupees was the cost price. That is fine. But would you receive 100 rupees if you decide to dispose it off? The answer is no. What would you receive? You would receive 80 rupees by way of NRV. So you will account for the inventory that you have on the date of the balance sheet at the NRV or the purchase cost, whichever is lower. So if the NRV is lower, you show it. You should, if NRV, okay, if the purchase cost that you are showing is higher than the NRV, then you will show this inventory at NRV. And why? Because then it is going to the right number. Between the NRV and the purchase cost, whichever is lower, you will show it at that. So if NRV is coming 120 rupees and your purchase cost is 100 rupees, obviously you will show the inventory in your books at 100 rupees only. So that is the importance of NRV, net realizable value. Second thing that you need to understand is the fair value. I think we have covered the fair value in the context of earlier many of the indices. Fair value, remember, is very simple to understand. What is fair value? Fair, सही. फेयर वैल्यू का मतलब है सही वैल्यू क्या है. और सही वैल्यू कैसे डिसाइड करोगे? सही वैल्यू डिसाइड करोगे अ प्राइस एट विच एन एसेट इज गोइंग टू बी सोल्ड और अ लायबिलिटी इज गोइंग टू बी परचेज्ड बिटवीन टू मार्केट पार्टिसिपेंट्स in an orderly transaction when both the buyer and the seller are knowledgeable and there is no other consideration and the whole transaction is at an arm's length. यानी कि बायर के बीच में और सेलर के बीच में ये ट्रांजैक्शन के अलावा और कोई दूसरा कंसिडरेशन नहीं है. दिस इज द फेयर वैल्यू. And this is what you need to understand of fair value, and we will discuss why fair value becomes relevant in the context of Index 2. What is an orderly transaction? Of course, it is very simple. Orderly transaction का मतलब है, orderly transaction is a term which is relevant in the case of fair value. Orderly transaction का मतलब ये है कि आपको एक एसेट सेल करनी है और आपको वो एसेट को सेल करने के लिए फुल अपॉर्चुनिटी है कि आप उसको मार्केटिंग करें, प्रमोट करें, एडवर्टाइज करें, वॉट एवर यू वॉन्ट टू डू टू सेल ऑफ दिस, टू डिस्पोज ऑफ दैट एसेट, यू आर अलाउड टू डू दैट. That is orderly transaction. Against the orderly transaction, what you have a forced transaction. So what is a forced transaction? Forced transaction is when you do not have the time and opportunity for publishing your product, for promoting your product. So that is forced transaction. So for fair value, the transaction has to be orderly transaction. अगर ये forced transaction है, then it will not be a fair value. Okay, so this is what I explained to you as to how the forced transaction and the orderly transactions differentiate from each other. And then we will need to understand what does the cost of inventories comprise of. तो ठीक है, Index 2 is all about inventories, but we need to understand as to what are the different components of inventories that you will need to take into account for doing the inventory accounting. And for doing that inventory accounting, you will need to understand the different components of the cost. That is what we will discuss in detail. The point number 11, what does the term all cost of purchases of inventory comprises of? अब देखिए, जब आप inventory खरीदते हैं, besides paying the price for the inventory, you also incur many other costs. You incur the cost on account of transportation, on account of freight, on account of handling, on account of insurance, and so many other, on account of taxes, and so many things. So all this put together will comprise of your purchase cost. So what these components are and how do you do the accounting of these components, that is we would discuss at point number 11. Now we also need to understand as to what is the cost of conversion. अब देखिए, इन्वेंट्री की बात कर रहे हैं तो इन्वेंट्री की कॉस्ट में क्या क्या आएगा. इन्वेंट्री की कॉस्ट में ऑब्वियसली द मटेरियल कॉस्ट विल कम, नो डाउट अबाउट इट. मटेरियल परचेज प्राइस विल कम. परचेज प्राइस इज ओनली विद रिगार्ड टू द रॉ मटेरियल. लेकिन आपकी इन्वेंट्री, और ध्यान से सुनिए, आपकी इन्वेंट्रीज विल कंप्राइज ऑफ व्हाट? योर इन्वेंट्रीज विल कंप्राइज ऑफ नंबर 1 द रॉ मटेरियल, number 2 the work in progress, and number 3 the finished goods. So all of them put together will comprise of your inventory cost. So उसमें conversion cost क्या है? And I can tell you at this point in time for you to have good understanding what is conversion cost. Conversion cost is the cost that you incur in converting raw material to finished product. तो यानी कि वो सारे खर्चे जो आप करते हो रॉ मटेरियल को फिनिश्ड प्रोडक्ट में कन्वर्ट करने के लिए, ऑल दोज एक्सपेंसेस आर योर कन्वर्जन कॉस्ट. तो इसमें क्या क्या आएगा? इसमें डायरेक्ट लेबर आएगी, इसमें फैक्ट्री ओवरहेड्स आएंगे, और फैक्ट्री ओवरहेड्स में भी फिक्स्ड फैक्ट्री ओवरहेड्स आएंगे और वेरिएबल फैक्ट्री ओवरहेड्स भी आएंगे. तो उन सब की अकाउंटिंग कैसे करेंगे? दिस इज व्हाट इंडेक्स 2 टॉक्स अबाउट. सो कन्वर्जन कॉस्ट इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कॉस्ट in the context of Index 2. So we will understand what is this conversion cost and what are the components of the conversion cost. What are the fixed overheads and what are the variable production overheads, because both of them will be part of your conversion cost. And remember, conversion cost, once again, what is conversion cost? Very simple. Conversion cost is the cost that the entity incurs in converting raw material into finished product. And this is really as simple as that. Now, when you have to find out the conversion cost, you also need to find out the normal capacity of your plant. And why do you have to find out the normal capacity of the plant? You need to find out the normal capacity of the plant because for finding out the conversion cost, you will need to allocate the fixed production overheads on the capacity. You will need to allocate the variable production overheads also on the capacity. So we will understand as to what is normal capacity of production facilities, how does it impact allocation of fixed and variable overheads, and as a consequence, how does it impact the conversion cost and the inventories cost. So आपकी जो कैपेसिटी है उस कैपेसिटी के बेसिस पर आप एलोकेट करोगे आपके फैक्ट्री ओवरहेड्स को, और जब आप फैक्ट्री ओवरहेड्स को एलोकेट करोगे ऑटोमेटिकली उससे डिपेंड करेगा, उससे इम्पैक्ट होगी आपकी कॉस्ट ऑफ कन्वर्जन. एंड रिमेंबर, जब आपकी कॉस्ट ऑफ कन्वर्जन इम्पैक्ट होगी ऑटोमेटिकली आपकी इन्वेंट्री कॉस्ट भी इम्पैक्ट होगी. क्यों आपकी इन्वेंट्री कॉस्ट इम्पैक्ट होगी? वेरी सिंपल, बिकॉज व्हाट डज योर इन्वेंट्री कॉस्ट कंप्राइज ऑफ? Your inventory cost comprises of number 1, the material cost, and number 2, the conversion cost. So that is what we will. That is the point number 15. Point number 16. How are the fixed overheads allocated in case of decline in the production or in case of idle plant? Very critical and very interesting. तो अगर मेरी नॉर्मल कैपेसिटी 1 लाख यूनिट्स प्रोड्यूस करने की है और समझो किसी कारण से एक्चुअल यूटिलाइजेशन मेरा हुआ 50,000 यूनिट्स का, तो जो मेरे फिक्स्ड ओवरहेड्स हैं मैं उनको कैसे एलोकेट करूंगा? विल आई एलोकेट देम ऑन 1 लाख यूनिट्स विच इज माय नॉर्मल कैपेसिटी, और विल आई एलोकेट माय फिक्स्ड ओवरहेड्स ऑन 50,000 विच इज माय एक्चुअल प्रोडक्शन? सो whichever way I do, we need to understand and we need to be very clear about it. I can tell you at this point in time, even if there is a decline in the actual production, remember you will allocate your fixed overheads based on the normal capacity only. And whatever is the excess production overheads which remain unallocated, that you will take to profit and loss as an expense. So this is how you will do the accounting of the allocation of fixed production overheads. कहने का क्या मतलब है, जरा सा ध्यान से सुनिए. कहने का ये मतलब है कि अगर लेट्स से फॉर एग्जांपल आपके टोटल फिक्स्ड ओवरहेड्स are 10 lakh. आपके टोटल फिक्स्ड ओवरहेड्स are 10 lakh or rupees 10 lakh. Your capacity is to produce 1 lakh. That means how much should you allocate per unit? Rupees 10. Now your total production overheads are rupees 10 lakhs. Your normal production is 1 lakh unit. Actually you have produced only 50,000 units. तो क्या होगा? 50,000 into 10, 5 lakh of the production cost you will allocate on the production, and the balance 5 lakh you will need to debit to your P&L account as an expense. And this is how you will do the accounting of or the allocation of fixed overheads in case of there is a decline in the production. But when it comes to increase in the production, so what do I mean by that? That means आपकी कैपेसिटी 1 लाख यूनिट की है लेकिन आपने 1,20,000 प्रोड्यूस किए. ऐसे समय पर आप क्या करोगे? ऐसे समय पर आप कोई एडजस्टमेंट नहीं करोगे. ऐसे समय पर आप जो रिवाइज्ड पर यूनिट ओवरहेड कॉस्ट आएगी, वही आप एलोकेट करोगे। क्या मतलब है कहने का मतलब यह है कि 10 लाख इज द अमाउंट ऑफ द प्रोडक्शन ओवरहेड्स दैट यू हैव, फिक्स्ड प्रोडक्शन ओवरहेड्स दैट यू हैव, and your actual output is 1,20,000. So you will divide the total of the production overheads, fixed production overheads of rupees 10 lakhs divided by 1,20,000, and whatever the amount that you receive per unit, you will allocate per unit this amount. So 10 lakh में से 12, so it will be around let's say about 8 rupees and something. तो वो आप उसको एलोकेट करोगे। क्यों करोगे आप ऐसा, समझ के लीजिए, क्यों करोगे आप ऐसा? आप इसलिए करोगे ताकि आपकी जो क्लोजिंग इन्वेंट्री है वो कॉस्ट से ज़्यादा ना दिखाई दे। अगर आप उसको एडजस्ट करेंगे तो आपकी जो क्लोजिंग इन्वेंट्री है इट विल बी शोइंग हायर देन द कॉस्ट, एंड दैट इज व्हाट यू आर नॉट सपोज टू बी डूइंग। ऑलराइट, सो now let's come to the point number 19. How are the variable production overheads allocated during the times of low production or abnormally high production? Friends, the answer of course is very simple. And what is the answer? As regards the variable production overheads, it doesn't really matter. And why it does not really matter? Because variable production overheads, as you understand very well, variable production overheads are the indirect production expenses which more or less vary with the output. So if your production has gone down, by default your variable production overheads also would have gone down. If your production has gone up, by default your variable production overheads also would have gone up. So you do not have to make any adjustment as far as the variable production overheads are concerned, because they get automatically adjusted because they are variable. In case of fixed overheads, it does not happen. Fixed overheads will need to be adjusted. When I say adjusted, that means you will have to decide as to what portion of the fixed overheads is allocated and which is not allocated. You take it to the P&L account in case there has been a decline in the production which is less than your normal capacity. Then we come to point number 20. How to determine the cost of conversion in cases where the production process may result in more than one product simultaneously, a joint product or a byproduct. तो देखिए, Index 2 talks about the cost of inventory. Index 2 guides you also on the conversion cost, and it also guides you in case of a situation where your production process gives you more than one product. So there may be a joint product or there may be a byproduct. So in case if there is a joint product, how do you decide the conversion cost? And in case if there is a byproduct, again how do you decide the conversion cost? And that is what the Index 2 talks about, and that is what Index 2 tells you as to how do you do the accounting, of the conversion cost in case if your production process comprises of more than one product, main product and the joint product, and main product and the byproduct. And that is what we will understand with the help of an example. Then we come to the point number 21, and point number 21 is about are there any non-production overheads which should be included in cost of inventories? That is something very interesting. कि क्या ऐसा कोई खर्चा है जो कि प्रोडक्शन एक्सपेंस नहीं है, बट इट शुड स्टिल बी इंक्लूडेड एंड एडेड एंड मेड पार्ट ऑफ द इन्वेंट्री कॉस्ट? Now you would say there will not be anything, there should not be anything, because if an item is not of a production cost, why should it be added to the cost of inventory? But remember, there is. And what is that? That is the cost of design. So in case if your entity is producing something, is manufacturing something which is customized to a customer, which is as per a specific order that you have received from a customer, एंड वो प्रोडक्शन करने के लिए आपने डिज़ाइन बनाए हैं और वो डिज़ाइन पे जो आपने खर्चा किया है, रिमेंबर इट इज़ नॉट अ प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट, it is not a production overhead, but whatever expense that you incur on the design, on the preparation of design for executing this particular order that you have received from a customer, all these design expenses will be added to the inventory cost in this case. And I'm sure you can understand, because the designing cost, even though it is a non-production cost, but ultimately it has been incurred for making this inventory to happen. So unless and until you do the designing, you will not be able to produce. So this is a non-production cost that you still have to include as part of your inventory, and that is the cost of designing, for the expenses that you incur on preparing the design. Then we look at the point number 22, which costs are excluded from the inventories and recognized as expenses in the period in which they are incurred. So we look at, there are different expenses. Those expenses will not be added to the inventory cost. They will need to be debited directly to the P&L account. What are the other costs which can be added to the cost of inventories? And I'm sure someone will definitely be able to give me the answer. And the answer of course is Ind AS 23 on the borrowing cost. And I'm sure you would remember, as per the Ind AS 23 on borrowing cost, certain inventories are also eligible for capitalization of the borrowing cost. So what are those inventories? Those inventories which take substantial time to be getting completed for the intended use or for sale. So in case if your company is in the business of making aeroplanes, is in the business of making ship, or is in the business of making any of these high value products, and the interest cost that you are incurring in completion of these products, you would be eligible to add that interest cost, that borrowing cost, to the total cost of the inventory. Then we look at point number 24. How will you do accounting of cost of inventories when the same have been purchased on deferred settlement terms? क्या मतलब है इसका? इसका मतलब ये है कि कई बार कोई इन्वेंट्री आप खरीदते हो on lease. So when I say lease, that means what? That means your arrangement for the payment is not lump sum. तो ऐसा नहीं कि आज आपने रॉ मटेरियल खरीदा, आज आपने इन्वेंट्री खरीदी और आज आपने पेमेंट कर दिया. So sometimes you have a payment terms which are deferred. So maybe some item that you have purchased, and the payment of this material you are going to make over a period of 1 or 2 or 3 years by way of lease. And I'm sure you know it very well. The lease payment that you make will comprise of what? It will comprise of the principal and the interest charge or finance charge, isn't it? तो जब आप EMI भरते हो, लीज की जो EMI भरते हो हर महीने या हर क्वार्टर या हर 6 महीने में, तो वो जो EMI की जो अमाउंट है उसके दो कंपोनेंट हैं. एक कंपोनेंट है टुवर्ड्स द पेमेंट ऑफ प्रिंसिपल, एंड दूसरा कंपोनेंट है टुवर्ड्स द फाइनेंस चार्ज. क्यों? देखो, बहुत सिंपल सी बात है कि अगर आप एक मटेरियल परचेज कर रहे हो और उसका पेमेंट डेफर्ड बेसिस पे करने वाले हो, तो जो आपका जो सप्लायर है वो प्राइस जो आपसे लेगा, ही इज गोइंग टू चार्ज यू मोर देन व्हाट ही वुड हैव चार्ज्ड यू if you would have made upfront payment, or if you have gone for a normal credit period. Now that you are going for a deferred payment, the supplier is going to receive the money from you over a period of 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Since he is going to receive the money from you for over 2, 3, 4, 5 years, he is going to charge you extra. And therefore, the finance charge that you will pay for these inventories, that will be debited to your P&L account as the interest cost. So that is what is the Indes 2 talks about, and we should have an understanding. Then it talks about point number 25. What are the techniques for measurement of cost under Indes 2? तो उसके दो मेथड हैं. There are two methods under Indes 2 as far as the costing techniques are concerned. Number one, it says that the costing can be done on the standard cost basis, and number two, it says on retail market basis. So there are two methods that are prescribed under Indes 2 as far as the costing techniques are concerned. The first method is the standard cost, and second method is retailed method. So these are the two methods which are prescribed and which I thought you should know at this point in time. Cost related to industrial relationship, IR department, while calculating the conversion cost. See, the cost related to industrial relationship, really speaking, is not a production cost. It is an administrative cost. Now, since it is an administrative cost, it is not a production cost. Since it is not a production cost, it will not be part of the conversion cost. I hope that makes it clear to you, Nikhil. Okay. Very good. So, what are the cost formulas prescribed under Indes 2? So, there are three cost formula which are prescribed under Indes 2. The formula number one, specific identification method. So, what is a specific identification method? That means you are making an item or a product which is for a specific customer, and it is a non-standardized product. So that is the one method, specific identification method. The second method which is prescribed under the Indes 2 is FIFO, first in, first out. And I'm sure all of you know it very well as to what is first in and first out. And then the third method which is prescribed under Indes 2 is weighted average cost. And I'm sure all of you are also equally familiar with weighted average cost. By the way, there are only three methods. Method number one, specific identification method. Method number two, first in, first out. Method number three, weighted average cost method. It means what? It means LIFO, last in, first out, is not prescribed under Indes 2. Therefore, by default, an entity cannot do the valuation of the inventory following the LIFO, because LIFO is not permitted under Indes 2, and that is what you must remember forever. Then we come to the point number set 27 about the net realizable value. I have discussed about it. We will understand with the help of an example as to how do you calculate the NRV, which is net realizable value. Then we look at how and when recognition of an expense is done under Indes 2. So, जो आपकी इन्वेंट्री कॉस्ट है वो इन्वेंट्री कॉस्ट को आप at what stage will you recognize it as a cost in your P&L, in your financial statements? So that is point number 28. And finally, point number 29 is about the disclosures. So what are the different disclosures an entity is required to make in case of Indes 2, which is on industries? And remember, disclosures are absolutely very integral part of any of these standards. There is a tremendous amount of focus on the disclosures. And why there is a tremendous amount of focus on disclosures? Because remember, the financial statements preparation of the financial statement of any business anywhere in the world is not a formality, is not done just as a matter of compliance. Preparation of the financial statement is a very significant tool in the hands of the user of someone who is interested in your business. And this someone who is interested in your business, if he has to take a decision, the only document which is available to him is your financial statements. and therefore your financial statements have to be correct. Your financial statement have to disclose everything which is relevant, and that is why Index 2 also talks about different disclosures which are required to be made in the financial statements, and we will talk about them. So this is the broad boundaries that we have. I have tried and explained many of the things as I've discussed with you. Whatever has not been, we will do it now. So let us look at them one by one. So what is the objective? Okay, so what is the objective of the Index 2? As mentioned in the Index 2, the objective of this standard is to prescribe the accounting treatment for inventories. Very clear. This standard, Index 2, deals with determination of cost and its subsequent recognition as an expense, इंक्लूडिंग एनी राइट डाउन टू नेट रियलाइजेबल वैल्यू. अब देखिए, राइट डाउन का मतलब क्या है? राइट डाउन का मतलब ये है कि अगर आपकी बिजनेस में द नेट रियलाइजेबल वैल्यू इज कमिंग 80 रुपीज, द कॉस्ट प्राइस इज कमिंग 100 रुपीज, दैट मीन्स what is the amount that you need to take in your books? It is 80 rupees. That means you need to write down your inventory by 20 rupees. That means you need to take a hit to your P&L of rupees 20 on account of the value of your inventory going down by 20 rupees. And that is the meaning of write down, which is an essential part of Index 2 objective. As I said earlier, what is the scope of Index 2? Remember, Index 2 includes everything, every kind of inventory except financial instruments as defined in Index 32 and Index 109, and the biological assets as defined in Index 41 on agriculture. Except these two, everything else is covered as part of Index 2. Every inventory is covered as part of Index 2. This standard does not apply to the measurement of inventories held by producers of agricultural and forest products, agricultural production after harvest, and minerals and mineral products. So to these products, Index 2 is not applicable. And these are what? These are nothing but biological assets as defined in Index 41. And what is the reason as to why they are not covered as part of the Index 2? Because primarily you would see by practice all these items that we are discussing, they are the value is decided based on the fair value at a particular stage of the production process, and that is the reason why it is not part of the Index 2. Likewise, a commodity broker trader who measures his inventory at fair value. So सीधी सी बात है, अगर कोई, if an entity or if any party is doing the valuation of the inventory based on fair value less the cost to sell, then Index 2 will not apply. And why Index 2 will not apply? Because you are doing the valuation on the fair value. So when it is fair value, then Index 2 is not applicable, and that is what you must remember, because fair value is something which has got nothing to do with the costing. Index 2 talks about inventory's cost. Inventory's cost based on the purchase cost, based on the cost of conversion and other cost. When you do the valuation based on the fair value, all these costs has got no meaning. And that is the reason why in case of the biological products as defined under Index 41 on agriculture and the financial instruments as defined in Index 32 and Index 109, to them Index 2 does not apply. लेट अस लुक एट सम ऑफ द की डेफिनेशंस वंस अगेन. सो इन्वेंट्रीज क्या है? बहुत सिंपल है, आप सभी को मालूम है, लेकिन क्रिटिकली थोड़ा सा समझ लें टेक्निकली. व्हाट आर द इन्वेंट्रीज? इन्वेंट्रीज आर एसेट्स which are held for sale in the ordinary course of business, and that is applicable in case of trading. So अगर कोई ट्रेडर है तो ट्रेडर क्या करता है? ट्रेडर गुड्स खरीदता है और उनको बेचता है. सो व्हाट ही इज डूइंग, ही इज होल्डिंग द इन्वेंट्री, he is holding the inventory for sale. So the inventory that you, the goods that you hold for sale is part of your inventories. Then inventories also include in the process of production of such sale. So अब ये भी है, जैसे आपका work in progress है, your work in progress is also part of your inventory, because in your work in progress the material cost has gone, the conversion cost partly has already gone, so that is why that is also part of your inventory cost. And finally the inventories also include the goods which are complete and ready for sale or for internal use. So these are the three components, friends, as far as the definition of inventories is concerned. How are the net realizable value and fair value डिफाइंड अंडर इंड एस? तो ये मैं आपके साथ में पहले डिस्कस कर चुका हूँ, लेकिन जस्ट टू रिव्यू इट फर्दर, इसकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग आपके दिमाग में और मजबूत हो जाए, उसके लिए नेट रियलाइजेबल वैल्यू, वाई नेट रियलाइजेबल वैल्यू हैज़ टू बी कंसिडर्ड फॉर द इन्वेंट्री वैल्यूएशन. एंड रिमेंबर द रीजन इज बिकॉज इन योर फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स नीड टू गिव अ करेक्ट पिक्चर. सो अगर परचेस कॉस्ट 100 रुपीज़ की है और एनआरवी 80 रुपीज़ की है, अगर आप इन्वेंट्री को 800 रुपीज़ में दिखाओगे तो दैट विल बी रॉन्ग. एंड वाई दैट विल बी रॉन्ग? बिकॉज योर इन्वेंट्री इज नॉट वर्थ इन रियलिटी 100 रुपीज़. इट मे बी द परचेस कॉस्ट, बट रियली ऑन द डेट ऑफ द बैलेंस शीट इट इज वर्थ जस्ट 80 रुपीज़. एंड देयरफॉर you should show your inventory at 80 rupees. So that is the reason as to why you need to understand what is NRV. And how do you calculate the figure of NRV? Of course, it's very simple. Estimated price to realize the sale, realize from the sale of inventory, minus estimated expenses that you will incur for making the sale happen, and the difference is your net realizable value. I would also like to once again explain to you as to what is the fair value. And remember, what is the fair value? Fair value is the price that would be received to sell an asset or paid to transfer a liability in an orderly transaction between market participants, that is buyer and seller, at the measurement date. So I have already explained this to you as to what is the fair value, but just to give you technically, this is the fair value. Sometime in project market sale, product sold below their cost, however at BOQ label it is more than its cost. Yeah, so that's a commercial decision, remember. And in commercial decision you can always do that, because many times you are not driven only by profit. Many times you are also driven by an objective to get entrenched in a new market. तो अगर आपको एक नए मार्केट में पैर जमाने हैं, तो नए मार्केट में पैर जमाने के लिए आपको अपने प्रोडक्ट को सेल करना पड़ सकता है, which may not be earning you any profit, and sometimes it may be incurring a loss also. But remember, it's a commercial decision. It has to be done very thoughtfully. When you are doing so, you must be very clear in your mind that the loss that you are suffering today will be more than compensated tomorrow when you will get a foothold on that market. Number two, you also need to understand that you have fixed cost and you have a variable cost. So in certain cases, when you already have reached your break-even quantity, when you have already recovered your fixed cost, so when you have recovered your fixed cost, the incremental sale beyond the point of break-even point, when your fixed cost is already recovered, you can decide to sell your product at a lower price than your normal price. And why is that so? So long as you are covering your variable cost, you will make a profit. And that is the reason why somebody can do the sale of the product which is not covering the fixed cost and the variable cost, because the fixed cost has already been covered somewhere. I hope that answered your question, Nikhil. Okay, very good. So this is your fair value, and that, as I have explained already, and I have already explained to you. देखिए, fair value में आपको एक चीज़ याद रखनी है. Fair value होने के लिए there has to be orderly transaction. If the transaction is orderly, then only it will be fair value. If it is a forced transaction, it will not be fair value. So orderly transaction, the buyer is willing, the seller is willing, both of them are willing, and there is no other consideration, and the transaction is completely at arm's length, and then it becomes a fair value. Why fair value becomes important? And let me remind you, fair value becomes important because when the inventories are being valued at fair value, then Ind AS 2 will not be applicable. Ind AS 2 will be applicable only when inventories are being valued based on the cost. Which cost? Either the purchase price, purchase cost, or the net realizable value. And that is the significance of thank you, Anuj. Which is the significance of the fair value. Good, Nikhil, I am glad. Okay, so let's move to the next point, and the next point is at what amount the inventories will be measured under the Ind AS. And remember, as I said earlier, under the Ind AS, inventories shall be measured at the lower of the cost and the NRV. So ये हमेशा याद रखिए कि जब भी आप इन्वेंट्रीज का वैल्यूएशन कर रहे हैं और आपके फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स को आप प्रिपेयर कर रहे हैं, सो फॉर द प्रिपरेशन ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट ऑफ योर एंटिटी, व्हाट वैल्यू यू विल टेक ऑफ द इन्वेंट्री? यू विल टेक द वैल्यू ऑफ इन्वेंट्री विच इज लोअर ऑफ व्हाट? लोअर ऑफ परचेज प्राइस, परचेज कॉस्ट और NRV, विच एवर इज लोअर. अब एक चीज जो आपको यहां याद रखनी है वो ये कि जब आपकी परचेज प्राइस ज्यादा है, NRV कम है, देयर इज एन इम्पेयरमेंट, और फॉर द इन्वेंट्री इट इज रेफर्ड एज राइटिंग डाउन. सो यू आर राइटिंग डाउन द डिफरेंस बिटवीन द परचेज प्राइस एंड द NRV. दैट मीन्स यू आर टेकिंग अ हिट इन योर P&L बाय दैट अमाउंट. अब आपको यहां एक चीज क्या याद रखनी है? एक चीज आपको ये याद रखनी है कि assuming this inventory is carried forward with you for some reason next year also, and in the next year the price, the net realizable value has increased. So if the net realizable value NRV has increased, so जो राइट डाउन आपने पिछले साल में किया 20 रुपए का, आप ये साल में उस 20 रुपए के राइट डाउन को रिवर्स कर सकते हो. सो पहले आपने 20 रुपए का जो हिट लिया था P&L में, उस हिट को ये साल में आप रिवर्स कर सकते हो. दैट मीन्स यू कैन राइट बैक द राइट डाउन. यानी कि जो आपने पहले कम किया, अब चूंकि आपकी NRV बढ़ गई है, तो आप NRV को ये फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट NRV की इंक्रीज NRV की वजह से इस समय के फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट में आप वो अमाउंट को रिवर्स कर सकते हो. उस एक्सपेंस, उस लॉस को, लास्ट ईयर के लॉस को इस बार रिवर्स करके अपने P&L को बढ़ा सकते हो. What does the cost of inventories comprise of? So just to we have discussed it already, but just to sum it up, just to refresh, just to reinforce our understanding, the cost of inventories will comprise of three things. Number one, all cost of purchases. यानी कि जो आप मटेरियल परचेज कर रहे हो, उस मटेरियल को परचेज करने के लिए जो भी आप खर्चे करते हो, कौन कौन से खर्चे होंगे? मटेरियल की प्राइस होगी, फ्रेट होगा, इंश्योरेंस होगा, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन होगा. तो जो भी सारे खर्चे करते हो, टैक्सेस होंगे. पर एक याद रखिए, टैक्सेस कौन से? टैक्सेस वो जिनका आपको आगे क्रेडिट मिलने वाला नहीं है. और अगर क्रेडिट मिलने वाला है, पार्टली मिलने वाला है, सो ओनली द टैक्स, विच टैक्स विल बी पार्ट ऑफ योर कॉस्ट, टैक्स दैट यू आर पेइंग minus the amount of credit that you will receive in future. That remaining tax will be part of your purchase cost. So all cost of purchases, cost of conversion, मैंने आपको बताया कि cost of conversion क्या है. Cost of conversion बहुत simple है. Cost of conversion का मतलब है the expenses that you incur in converting raw material into finished product. So whatever cost that you incur in converting the raw material into finished product, every cost that you incur is your conversion cost, which is part of your inventory cost. And finally, other costs incurred in bringing the inventories to their present location and condition, यानी कि transportation में, freight में, वो जो भी खर्चा आप करोगे, all that cost will also be part of your inventories cost. अब ये मैं थोड़ा सा आपको एक डायग्राम के मदद से एक्सप्लेन करता हूँ कि व्हाट आर द कंपोनेंट्स ऑफ द कॉस्ट ऑफ इन्वेंट्री. दोज ऑफ यू हु आर ऑन द फेसबुक will not be able to see the slide, but those of you who are with me on the Zoom will of course be able to see this slide on their screen, but I would try to explain it as simply as possible so that even those who are watching me on the Facebook are able to understand. अब देखो कॉस्ट ऑफ इन्वेंट्री अगर आप लेफ्ट हैंड साइड को देखें तो कॉस्ट ऑफ परचेज है. कॉस्ट ऑफ परचेज में क्या आएगा? परचेज प्राइस आएगी, इम्पोर्ट ड्यूटीज एंड अदर टैक्सेस आएंगे. इम्पोर्ट ड्यूटी जब मैं बोल रहा हूँ इसका मतलब आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट, आई एम assuming that the goods that we are talking about are the imported ones. So if the goods are imported, then import duty will come. If the goods are not imported, then the local taxes whatever may become, that is your GST. Then cost attributable to acquisition of material, finished product, and the services also will come. The second component is your cost of conversion, that will happen. And in case of cost of conversion, remember as we discussed, the cost of conversion will comprise of two things. Number one, cost directly related to unit of production, that is your direct labor, and allocation of production overheads. Which production overheads? The fixed production overheads as well as the variable production overheads, and I have already explained this to you. Other costs which are not included in the inventory, जो आपको समझना है कि कौन कौन से ऐसे खर्चे हैं जो आपकी इन्वेंट्री में इंक्लूड नहीं होंगे. सो द एक्सपेंसेस दैट विल नॉट बी इंक्लूडेड एज पार्ट ऑफ द इन्वेंट्री कॉस्ट इज एबनॉर्मल कॉस्ट, स्टोरेज कॉस्ट, एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव एक्सपेंसेस, सेलिंग एक्सपेंसेस, borrowing cost. So the industrial relationship expense, unless you have a reason to believe that it is a production cost. Now generally IR expenses will be administrative expenses and therefore they will not be added to the cost of the inventory. So this is what, friends, is the components of cost of inventory. With this, let's move forward, and what we have now is what does the term all cost of purchase of inventories comprise of? I have just discussed with you, and therefore I am going to skip this one, and I would just like to give you an example. So those of you who are watching this program on the Zoom can just do a quick calculation, and as you see the case which is given to you on the screen, so let you try and solve this case. So there's a company called Sally Burton, and those of you who are watching me on the Facebook, for them I'm just telling as to what this case is, so in case you would like to solve it. Sally Burton Limited purchased raw material for $125,000 less a rebate of 2%. तो 1,25,000 का रॉ मटेरियल खरीदा और उस पर उनको 2% का रिबेट मिला. It paid $25,000 as import duty, including $10,000 towards a special duty, and which is refundable. So the total duty paid is $25,000, and out of this $25,000, $10,000 will be refunded. It also spent an ocean freight of $3,000, clearing agents' charges of $2,000, $4,000 on warehouse rent, and $1,500 on watchman's salary. What will be the cost of inventory in this case? So those of you who are watching me on Zoom can write their answer in the chat box, and I will see them as to what is your answer, and in case it should not take you much time in any case. So Francisca, you do not have Facebook, but you have Zoom, I suppose. Yes, good evening, Mugdha. So we are already on, and I'm sure you are there in the class. Okay, so Francisca, you are changing. Saurabh is saying it is 1,46,500. Francisca is earlier said 1,52,500, and now she is changing it to 1,40,500. Harsh is saying 1,52,500. Let's see what others have to say before we have a look at the final number. So maybe one more person. And Rahul, what is your answer? All right, so I think we can go to the solution, and this is the solution. So your answer is going to be 1,42,500, and many of you, I think, gave this answer. So Francisca, you said 1,42,500, which of course is the right answer. Those of you who could not get the right answer can understand as to why their figure is different from the situation, which is the right answer. So the right answer is 1,42,000. Remember, the warehouse rent will not be part of your inventory cost. Likewise, the salary that you pay to the watchman will not be part of your inventory cost, because these are the expenses that you are incurring in the normal course. But rest of the expenses that you are incurring for getting the raw material into your factory, and that is how your cost will come to 1,42,500. Very good. So with this, let's go over to the next one. And what we do now is, what is the cost of conversion and what is its significance? I think I have discussed this already with you. And cost of conversion, remember, is nothing but all the expenses that you incur in converting your raw material into finished product, and that is your conversion cost. That is your conversion cost. As simple as that. देखो, बहुत सारी चीज़ें मैं आपको बताता हूँ कि फाइनेंस में, अकाउंट्स में, कॉस्टिंग में बहुत सारी चीज़ें ऐसी होती हैं कि वो जो सवाल है उसका आंसर क्वेश्चन में ही छिपा हुआ है. वी ओनली नीड टू बिकम लिटिल अवेयर. कन्वर्जन कॉस्ट क्या है? कन्वर्जन कॉस्ट क्या है? कन्वर्जन कॉस्ट इज द कॉस्ट of converting the raw material into finished product. So what it can be? It can be the direct labor cost, and it can be the factory overheads. So factory overheads कौन से? Factory overheads which are fixed in nature, factory overheads which are variable in nature. So that total of the direct labor, total of the factory overheads fixed as well as variable put together is your conversion cost. And why is normal capacity? What is the normal capacity of production facilities? And I've discussed this with you, but I would like to spend little time here. How does it impact allocation of fixed and variable production overheads, and as a consequence cost of conversion and cost of inventories? ये जरा आपको समझ के लेना बहुत ज़रूरी है. तो मैं थोड़ा सा इसको थोड़ा स्लो जाऊंगा ताकि आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग इसके ऊपर मजबूत हो. दिस इज व्हाट आई वुड लाइक टू डू. सो पहला सवाल यह है कि नॉर्मल कैपेसिटी क्या है? सो नॉर्मल कैपेसिटी इज द प्रोडक्शन एक्सपेक्टेड अंडर नॉर्मल सर्कमस्टांसेस. तो आप एक फैक्ट्री है, एक प्लांट है, उसकी नॉर्मल कैपेसिटी मालूम करना चाहते हो कि उसकी नॉर्मल कैपेसिटी क्या है। कैसे मालूम करोगे? नॉर्मल कैपेसिटी का मतलब ये है कि नॉर्मल सिचुएशन में वो फैक्ट्री कितना प्रोड्यूस करेगी, दैट इज द नॉर्मल कैपेसिटी। दैट मीन्स व्हाट? दैट मीन्स यू हैव अ कंपनी कॉल्ड मारुति। इन नॉर्मल ईयर, how many cars the plant of Manesar of Maruti will produce? Let's say that number is 500,000 cars. So the normal capacity of Maruti's Manesar plant is 500,000 car. So that is your normal capacity. Why it is important? Why the normal capacity is important? Normal capacity is important because allocation of the production overheads is linked with the normal capacity, and that is the reason why we need to understand what is normal capacity. Allocation of fixed overheads to the cost of conversion is based on the normal capacity of production, right? तो कहने का मतलब क्या है? कहने का मतलब ये है कि let's say and I will repeat that example once again. एक कंपनी है, उसकी कैपेसिटी है 1 लाख यूनिट्स प्रोड्यूस करने की। कंपनी है, उसकी नॉर्मल कैपेसिटी है 1 लाख यूनिट प्रोड्यूस करने की। कंपनी के प्रोडक्शन ओवरहेड्स की अमाउंट, फिक्स्ड प्रोडक्शन ओवरहेड्स की अमाउंट 10 लाख है। तो पर यूनिट हाउ मच अमाउंट इज टू बी एलोकेटेड ऑफ द प्रोडक्शन ओवरहेड? इट इज ₹10। 10 lakhs डिवाइडेड बाय 1 lakh विच इज द नॉर्मल कैपेसिटी। अब अगर किसी कारण से ये कंपनी ने 50,000 यूनिट ही प्रोड्यूस किए तो क्या होगा? तो ये होगा कि 50,000 यूनिट्स इंटू ₹10, 5 lakh ऑफ द प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट विल बी एलोकेटेड एज द कन्वर्जन कॉस्ट ऑन द प्रोडक्शन, एंड द बैलेंस 5 lakh of the production overheads will need to be taken to the P&L account as an expense, and that is what you must understand. The actual level of production may be used if it approximates normal capacity, and I have explained to you how are the fixed overheads allocated and what happens to the unallocated overheads. The unallocated overheads will be debited to the P&L as an expense. क्या मतलब है कहने का? यहाँ पर जरा ध्यान सुनिए, यहाँ ध्यान से सुनिए। यहाँ पर कहने का मतलब ये है कि अगर आपके प्रोडक्शन ओवरहेड 10 लाख रुपए के हैं और आपने कैपेसिटी आपकी 1 लाख की है और आपने 50,000 यूनिट ही प्रोड्यूस किए, तो ऐसी गलती मत करना कि 10 लाख डिवाइडेड बाय 50,000 एलोकेट ₹20 पर यूनिट। डोंट मेक दैट मिस्टेक, डोंट मेक दैट मिस्टेक, बिकॉज योर एलोकेशन पर यूनिट will remain ₹10 only, and the balance 5 lakh of rupees of the total production overheads will go to P&L as I have explained to you. तो वो खाली आप याद रखिए, that is what you need to remember. Right, okay. Fine. So what happens to the allocation of fixed overhead allocated in periods of abnormal high production? And remember, मैंने आपको बताया कि जब आपका एक्चुअल प्रोडक्शन नॉर्मल प्रोडक्शन से कम है, उस समय पर आपको ध्यान रखना है कि आपका जो एलोकेशन ऑफ द ओवरहेड्स होगा वो 10 रुपये पर यूनिट ही होगा। The differential production cost will be transferred to the P&L account as an expense. लेकिन अगर आपका प्रोडक्शन नॉर्मल कैपेसिटी से ज़्यादा हुआ, नॉर्मल कैपेसिटी 1 लाख रुपए की है, आप 1 लाख यूनिट्स की है और आपका एक्चुअल प्रोडक्शन 1,20,000 यूनिट्स का हुआ, तो अब आप क्या करेंगे? अब आप 10 रुपये पर यूनिट एलोकेट नहीं करेंगे, अब आप क्या करेंगे, आप नई रेट मालूम करेंगे। नई रेट कैसे मालूम करेंगे? 10 lakh rupees is the amount of the factory overheads divided by the actual output of 1,20,000. Whatever is the per unit amount coming, you will do the allocation of the fixed overheads as per this rate. And why do you have to do this? So that your closing inventory is not shown at a higher cost than the purchase price. How to determine the cost of conversion in cases where the production process may result in more than one product simultaneously, that is joint or byproduct. अब देखो क्या है कि अगर एक ही प्रोडक्ट है तो फिर कोई इश्यू नहीं है। एक ही प्रोडक्ट है तो जो भी प्रोडक्शन ओवरहेड्स हैं वो सारे के सारे उस प्रोडक्ट को एलोकेट हो जाएंगे, बात खत्म हो जाएगी। लेकिन अगर आप कि जो प्रोडक्शन प्रोसेस है उसमें दो प्रोडक्ट हैं, दो जॉइंट प्रोडक्ट्स हैं, प्रोडक्ट ए है और प्रोडक्ट बी है, तो आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा? तो फिर आपको जो प्रोडक्शन ओवरहेड्स हैं उनको ए और बी पर एलोकेट करना पड़ेगा। और वो एलोकेशन आप कैसे करेंगे? वो एलोकेशन आप करेंगे ऑन सम सिस्टमेटिक बेसिस। So what can be the systematic basis? The systematic basis can be the sale value of both these products. So on the sale value of product A and sale value of product B, you will allocate the production overheads on pro rata based on the sale value, and that is what you need to remember. As regards the byproduct, अब देखो byproduct का जहाँ तक सवाल है, more often than not you will see that the sale realization from the byproduct is insignificant, it is immaterial. तो पहली बात आप क्या करोगे? एज पर इंडेक्स 2 फर्स्ट थिंग व्हाट यू विल डू, एज पर इंडेक्स 2 फर्स्ट थिंग व्हाट यू विल डू इज कि ये जो बाई प्रोडक्ट की सेल है you will record in your books at NRV, at net realizable value. And what is net realizable value? I am sure you will remember the sale realization minus the expenses that you will incur in sale to happen. The difference is your NRV. तो नॉर्मली जब बाई प्रोडक्ट है, बाई प्रोडक्ट इज इनसिग्निफिकेंट, इमटेरियल है, तो पहली बात तो आप आपकी अकाउंटिंग में, आपके बुक्स में आप बाई प्रोडक्ट का जो रियलाइजेशन है उसको एनआरबी पर दिखाओगे। एंड दूसरी चीज आप क्या करोगे कि जो एनआरबी है आप उसको फ्रॉम द कॉस्ट ऑफ द प्रोडक्शन उसमें से आप माइनस कर दोगे, एंड द नेट ऑफ द प्रोडक्शन, नेट अमाउंट ऑफ द प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट, net amount of the production cost, that meaning what? Meaning the production cost minus the NRV of the byproducts. The difference you will record in your books as your material cost. So this is the treatment that you will do in case your production process has got more than one product. And what is more than one product? More than one product is either it is a joint product or it is a byproduct. In case of joint product, you will need to allocate the fixed production overheads on a systematic basis. What that systematic basis can be? That systematic basis can be the value of sales realizable from the sale of these two products, these two joint products. In case of byproducts, what you do? Byproducts, number one, record it in your books. Sale of the byproduct, record in your books at NRV. And number two, adjust this NRV minus this NRV from the production cost, and whatever is the balance, that becomes your inventory cost. So this is how you will do the accounting of the production processes, where your production process not only have one product, but they have more than one product, which can be a joint product or which can be a byproduct. All right, so let's go to the next item, and next question is, are there any non-production overheads which should be included in the cost of inventories? As I said in the beginning, the answer is yes. And what is the answer? The answer is cost of designing products for specific customers should be added to these specific entries. And in the beginning, I think I have explained with the help of example as to in which situation will you add the cost of designing the product, and I'm sure you would remember that. Which are the costs which are to be excluded from the cost of inventories? Number one, abnormal wastage. Okay, so normal waste है you take as part of your cost. Abnormal है take it to your P&L. Abnormal है take it to your P&L. Storage cost will not be part of your inventory cost. Administrative overheads will not be part of your inventory cost. Selling cost, obviously selling cost is happening after the goods are produced, so therefore selling cost will not be part of your inventory cost. So these four costs that you see on the screen are to be excluded from the cost of inventories. What are the other costs which can be added to the cost of inventories? As I said in the very beginning, and I'm sure you would remember based on my discussion with you on Index 23, which is on borrowing cost, we discussed that in case of certain inventories which are classified as qualifying assets as per Index 23 on borrowing cost, the borrowing cost can also be added to the inventory cost in such cases. Which are these cases? To give you two examples, you are a ship making company, you are incurring any interest cost in making those ships, it will be part of your inventory cost. You are a aircraft making company, you are incurring interest cost in making those aircraft, it will be part of your inventory cost. It will be added to your inventory. And likewise, there may be any other product any other inventory that might be taking more than this normal making time. So in that case, this item, this asset becomes eligible for the capitalization of the borrowing cost as per Index 23, and that will be added. Rent of factory, but it also includes stores and stockyard. अब देखो उसमें ऐसा है कि रेंट ऑफ फैक्ट्री सीधी सी बात है is your production overhead. Because, and why it is production overhead? It is production overhead because unless you pay the rent, they will not let you use the factory. So therefore, for the production, factory rent becomes a factory overhead, and therefore factory rent that you pay will be part of your factory overheads, and it is going to be part of your fixed factory overheads, because this rent you have to pay in any case. Now doesn't really matter कि उसमें स्टोर्स और स्टॉक यार्ड इंक्लूडेड है. देखो स्टोर्स और स्टॉक यार्ड का अलग से तो रेंट नहीं दे रहे हो, it is part of your production facilities only. So when it is part of your production facilities, normally it is advisable that you don't do too much of dissecting and too much of differentiation. Therefore, even if the factory where you are making production includes stores and stockyard, remember any factory across the world will always have stores, will always have a stockyard. So it is integral part of the factory, and therefore you do not have to worry about separating the rent on stores and the stockyard. Let it be simply part of your factory overheads only. Okay, so you do not have to really worry about it actually. Okay, good. I hope that answers your question, Nikhil. Okay, so this is your other cost that can be added, which is your borrowing cost as per Index 23. How will you do the accounting of cost of inventories when these inventories have been purchased on deferred settlement terms? I'm sure you will remember, I have discussed with you, I have explained this with you कि अगर कोई inventory आपने purchase करी है and the payment arrangement is deferred on deferred terms, तो याद रखिए अगर जो आपने इन्वेंट्री परचेज करी है उसकी जो पेमेंट टर्म है वो डेफर्ड बेसिस पे है. इसका मतलब वो जो आपका वेंडर है, जो आपका सप्लायर है, वो जो आपको प्राइस लगाएगा वो प्राइस नॉर्मल प्राइस नहीं होगी, उस प्राइस में वो अपनी इंटरेस्ट कॉस्ट भी ऐड करेगा. इसका मतलब जब आप हर महीने पेमेंट करेंगे तो जो आप EMI देंगे, दैट EMI विल कंप्राइज ऑफ द प्रिंसिपल पेमेंट एंड ऑल्सो फाइनेंस चार्ज. So this finance charge, please remember, will need to be separated. This finance charge will not be part of your inventory cost. This finance charge will be taken directly to the P&L. Okay, so this is what you must remember. How will you do the accounting of cost of inventories when these inventories have been purchased on the deferment settlement terms? And I have already explained this to you. What are the techniques for the measurement of cost under the Ind AS 2? So as per Ind AS 2, there are only two methods for the measurement of cost, and method number one is standard cost method, and method number two is the retail cost method. So these are the two methods prescribed, and your entity can use either of them, but only either of them. What are the cost formulas? I think I have explained to you already. The cost formulas which are prescribed under Ind AS 2 are: number one, specific identification method; number two, first in first out; and number three, weighted average cost method. Remember, LIFO is not there. So the Ind AS 2 on inventories does not prescribe LIFO as the cost formula. So what does it mean? It means an entity cannot use the LIFO because the Ind AS 2 does not prescribe the LIFO. So any entity to which Ind AS 2 is applicable, that entity can use only either the specific identification method, which of course is situation is specific, or it can use FIFO, or it can use weighted average cost. So additional to operational activity, but stock yard covered finished goods item. तो कोई बात नहीं है, क्योंकि स्टॉक यार्ड है तो वो कहीं ना कुछ स्टोर ही करेगा. स्टॉक यार्ड है तो उसमें या तो आप रॉ मटेरियल स्टोर करेंगे या फिर फिनिश गुड्स स्टोर करेंगे, दोनों में से कुछ ना कुछ स्टोर करेंगे. अल्टीमेटली स्टॉक यार्ड विल बी यूज्ड फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ स्टॉकिंग ओनली. सो इवन इफ दैट इज व्हाट यू आर डूइंग, you will still you do not have to separate the amount of the rent that you are paying for the stockyard when the rent is being paid lump sum as a factory rent. In case if you are paying rent separately for the stockyard, okay, or for the store, in that case you can decide. See, ultimately it's a call that the company will have to take, and the company will have to convince the auditor, because ultimately costing of the inventory is very important. So if the management thinks that this is how it should be done, and if for the auditors so agree with that, there's no problem. But in general, any plant, any factory across the world will always have some storage, will always have some stockyard, and in that storage area, that stockyard, it will store raw material, or it will store finished goods. And if all these facilities are being availed on rent basis, then the entire rent will be treated as the production overheads. Remember, all said and done, the storage is also for the purpose of production only. Okay, so okay, good, very good. So cost of formula, as I have explained to you already, it can be specific identification method, or it can be FIFO, or it can be weighted average. So this is how you do the valuation of inventory, and this is how you arrive at the net realizable value, and I have discussed that already in detail. How and when recognition of an expense is done under Ind AS 2. तो अब सवाल ये है कि जो इन्वेंट्री आप कैरी कर रहे हो, एट व्हाट पॉइंट दिस इन्वेंट्री विल बी रिकॉग्नाइज्ड एज एन एक्सपेंस. So the answer is, so the question is, at what point inventories will be recognized as an expense in your books of accounts? So the answer is, when inventories are sold, the carrying amount of those inventories shall be recognized as an expense in the period in which the related revenue is recognized, and that is as a result of the matching concept. And what is matching concept? Expenses pertaining to an income should be recorded in the same period in which the income is recorded. So this is how you will do the recognition of the inventory cost. So as and when the inventory is removed, it will be recognized in the expense at the same time when the revenue with regard to that inventory is being recognized. So then we come to the last part of our discussion for today, and that is disclosure under Ind AS 2. So what are the disclosure that the entity is required to make? And remember, always remember, as an accounting professional, as a finance professional, as an auditing professional, as a businessman, as a CFO, as a CEO, Chief Accounts Officer, it is our obligation to ensure that the financials that are presented by an entity are really meaningful and are in compliance with the framework on Ind AS, are in compliance with all the indices that may be applicable. And therefore the financial statements not only have to disclose what is asked for specifically in different indices, but it also has to disclose something which in the opinion of the CAO or CFO or the company, which may be considered as relevant for the user of the financial statement to take a decision. So कौन कौन से डिस्क्लोजर करने पड़ेंगे आपको फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में? नंबर 1, accounting policies adopted. Number 2, total carrying amount of the inventories. Number 3, inventories that you are carrying at fair value. So अगर कुछ inventories हैं जो कि आप fair value पर carry कर रहे हो, you have to specifically disclose that these are the inventories which are being disclosed at fair value. Inventories recognized as an expense. So जो भी साल भर की inventory है उसमें से जो inventory is recorded as an recognized as an expense, it has to be separately disclosed. Amount of any write down, जो मैंने आपको एग्जांपल दिया कि अगर आपकी इन्वेंट्री की वैल्यू हैज गॉन डाउन, दैट मीन्स NRV has gone down, that means net realizable value has gone down, that means you have a case of impairment, that means you have a case of write down. तो अगर आपने कुछ राइट डाउन किया है आपके फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट में, तो वो राइट डाउन आपको अपने बुक्स में दिखाना होगा, और वो कितना है ये आपको फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में अलग से डिस्क्लोज करना होगा. अगर उसका कुछ रिवर्सल किया है तो वो रिवर्सल का अमाउंट भी आपको डिस्क्लोज करना होगा. एनी राइट डाउन दैट यू डिड इन द लास्ट ईयर which you are reversing in the current year because of the change scenario, this reversal will have to be shown and disclosed in the financial statements. Circumstances or events that led to the reversal of write down. So not only you will show what the write down is, but you will also need to explain as to what makes you do the write down. So what are the factors that convinces you that you have a case of write down, and therefore you can do the write down. And finally, in case if there are certain inventories which have been pledged as a security against the liabilities, so possible है कि आपका जो इन्वेंट्री है वो आपने बैंक के फेवर में हाइपोथिकेट करी हुई है. तो अगर आपने ऐसा कुछ हाइपोथिकेशन किया हुआ है तो वो हाइपोथिकेशन भी आपको अपने फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में डिस्क्लोज करना होगा. सो दीज आर द डिस्क्लोजर्स दैट यू विल हैव टू मेक एज पर द प्रोविजंस ऑफ Ind AS 2, which is on inventories. So with this, friends, we come to the close of our discussion on Ind AS 2, which is on inventories. I am sure, friends, and I hope you have had a nice experience in learning about Ind AS 2 on inventories, and I hope lot of your doubts, lot of your queries that you had in your mind must have got cleared, and I hope that now you will have a better handle and better confidence in implementing the provisions of Ind AS 2 in the entities with which you may be associated in present or in future. So before I sign off, friends, let me just remind you once again, lockdown is lockdown, remember, is not a solution. It is only a preventive measure. Your safety and my safety, remember, is your safety and my safety, remember, is not only I and you following the rule. You and I also have to ensure that everybody follows the rule. Everybody follows the rule. Then only everybody is safe and not otherwise. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, and wish you very safe time, wish you very healthy time. Take care of yourself, take care of your surrounding,
Hello, sir.
and take
Hello.
care of everything. Thank you so much. Thank
Sir,
you.
we have some doubt